All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to unpack the massive, honestly kind of complicated hype surrounding this whole new generation of weight loss drugs, like semaglutide and tirzepatide, right here in India. If you spent literally any time online or sitting in a doctor's waiting room lately, you've probably heard the buzz. These medications, which used to just quietly exist in diabetes clinics, have absolutely exploded into the mainstream conversation. But as with any medical breakthrough that hits social media, the signal is definitely getting lost in the noise. So, before we get completely swept up in the frenzy, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering beyond the miracle claims, India's double nutrition burden, science not magic, the risks and realities, and finally, navigating the next challenge.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Beyond the Miracle Claims. So we're seeing these two completely polarized myths everywhere right now, aren't we? On one side, there's this breathless excitement portraying these medications as literal magic wands, like just take a shot and suddenly healthy eating and physical activity are entirely unnecessary. But then on the flip side, there's this heavily judgmental narrative dismissing the drugs as just cosmetic shortcuts for people who, quote-unquote, lack the willpower to control their lifestyle. Well, here's the truth. The actual scientific evidence supports absolutely neither of these extremes. They aren't magic, and they are definitely not just for vanity.
As Professor Sujata Sharma points out, these medications represent a much deeper, really paradigm-shifting medical reality. They basically prove what medical scientists have been trying to tell us for years. Obesity requires sustained medical management. It is a complex, chronic disease. It's biological. So we can finally, scratch that. We must finally move past that simplistic and often super shaming advice of just telling people to eat less and move more.
That brings us to Section 2, India's double nutrition burden. 351 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That staggering figure represents the estimated number of Indian adults currently living with abdominal obesity, according to an analysis of the ICMR INDIAB study. To put that into perspective for you, that is literally more than the entire population of the United States, all dealing with a specific, highly dangerous form of fat storage.
And this data perfectly illustrates what we call the Indian paradox. General obesity, which is based on the Standard Body Mass Index, or BMI, sits at about 28.6%. But abdominal obesity? That's way higher, jumping up to 39.5%. You see, for South Asians, where the fat is stored matters just as much as overall weight. Genetics basically dictate that South Asians tend to accumulate dangerous visceral fat right around the organs, even at comparatively lower body weights. This means you could technically have a normal BMI, but still be at a very, very high risk for things like insulin resistance, fatty liver disease, and diabetes.
Now, this metabolic challenge isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's the direct result of some really rapid environmental changes. We're talking changing lifestyles, a dramatic drop in physical activity, a massive surge in screen time, irregular sleep, and incredibly easy access to calorie-dense food. And what's truly alarming here, this environment is shifting the baseline for the next generation. According to national survey data, we are actually seeing a doubling in the rates of overweight children under 5 years old.
When you break this data down even further, the gender divide is absolutely stark. National Family Health Survey data reveals that abdominal obesity disproportionately affects women. Nearly 40% of women aged 15 to 49 are living with abdominal obesity, compared to just 12% of men in that exact same age bracket. It is exactly into this highly complex, demographic-specific environment that these new weight loss drugs have arrived.
Which leads us to Section 3, Science, not magic.
Okay, to understand the actual biology here, we have to talk about GLP-1. Semaglutide works by mimicking this naturally occurring gut hormone. By doing so, it basically slows down how fast your stomach empties, and it talks directly to the appetite centers in your brain. So weight loss happens primarily because patients just feel fuller faster, they eat less, and honestly, that constant background mental chatter about food, it's vastly reduced.
Then you have tirzepatide, which takes this biological hack a step further. Instead of mimicking just one hormone, it actually acts on both GLP-1 and GIP receptors. This dual-action approach further suppresses hunger and really improves glucose metabolism, leading to even more significant metabolic changes in the body.
And we know this works, not because some social media influencer said so, but because of rigorous, large-scale clinical trials. In the Step 1 trial, patients on semaglutide lost nearly 15% of their body weight over 68 weeks. With tirzepatide in the SURMOUNT-1 trial, that average weight loss pushed all the way up to almost 21%. That is a huge transformational amount of weight. But, and this is absolutely crucial to note, these trials combine the medication with strict medical supervision and lifestyle support. And beyond just weight, these drugs are showing they can actually reduce major cardiovascular events, further proving this is about treating a chronic disease, not just shrinking waistlines.
So let's get into the fine print in Section 4, the risks and realities. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. When you lose weight rapidly on these medications, not all of it is fat. Roughly a quarter of the total weight lost is actually lean mass, which includes your skeletal muscle. And why does that matter? Well, if you're an older adult, a postmenopausal woman, or someone who already has low muscle mass, losing a quarter of your lean mass can severely impact your strength, mobility, and independence. The ultimate goal is to improve your health, right? Not to lose your quality of life just to become a bit lighter.
Furthermore, these substantial benefits are absolutely not risk-free. The most common hurdles patients face are severe gastrointestinal issues. We're talking nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, especially when you're just starting out. But there are definitely darker warnings too. Prolonged vomiting can cause dehydration and impair your kidneys. There's a risk of uncommon but serious acute pancreatitis. European regulators have even flagged a very rare adverse effect involving vision deterioration. Oh, and these drugs are strictly contraindicated for people with specific personal or family histories of thyroid tumors. Look, the point isn't to scare you. It's to emphasize that this is powerful medicine that demands real respect and medical oversight.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Navigating the Next Challenge.
As these get more popular, wider, and potentially cheaper availability in the future isn't automatically safer. It opens the door to rampant self-medication. People who don't actually need the drug might get it inappropriately prescribed. Worse, high demand breeds black markets, unregulated online sellers pushing completely falsified products. And even if the product is real, these are super sensitive injectable medications. A broken cold chain during transport can completely ruin the treatment.
Therefore, before you or anyone you know even thinks about opening their wallet, a proper clinical assessment is absolutely mandatory. You need to sit down with a doctor and ask these 3 vital questions. 1. Am I genuinely an appropriate candidate based on my actual medical history, not just my desire to lose some weight? 2. Which specific formulation and dose matches my clinical need? And 3, maybe most importantly, how will my nutrition and muscle strength be actively monitored during this treatment?
We're going to leave you with this final, really vital thought to consider. We are standing at the edge of a massive medical breakthrough in India. If these scientific advances conclusively prove that human biology heavily dictates our weight, well, isn't it finally time we completely reshape how society judges, talks about, and ultimately treats obesity?